What if Neanderthals had survived? Imagine waking up in a world that looks just like ours, same cities, same technology, same history. But as you step outside, something feels different. The streets are filled with people, but not all of them look like modern Homo sapiens. Some are broader, their skulls slightly larger, their faces distinct. Wider noses, prominent brows, stronger jaws. They move with a different kind of power, built for endurance, their bodies naturally more muscular. They are not Homo sapiens. They are Neanderthals. And in this world they never went extinct. This is not science fiction. 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals walked the earth alongside our ancestors. They hunted, gathered, created tools, and even painted on cave walls. But then something happened. They disappeared, leaving only Homo sapiens to dominate the planet. Was it climate change? Did we outcompete them? Were they absorbed into our gene pool, vanishing as a distinct species? We may never know for sure. But what if that never happened? What if, instead of fading away, Neanderthals had survived, evolving alongside us, sharing the planet as a second intelligent species? How different would history have been? Would we have built a world of peace, cooperation, and shared progress? Or would it have been a world of conflict, segregation, and even war? Let's go back, way back, to where it all began. A world with two human species. Tens of thousands of years ago, Europe and parts of Asia were not empty lands waiting for Homo sapiens to conquer. They were already home to Neanderthals, strong, skilled hunters who thrived in cold climates, their bodies built to withstand the brutal ice age. Then our ancestors arrived. Homo sapiens, smaller, weaker but faster, more adaptable and capable of thinking in new ways, began migrating into Neanderthal territories. The first encounters may have been peaceful. We know they interbred because traces of Neanderthal DNA still exist in modern humans. But despite this brief coexistence, Neanderthals vanished. But imagine if they hadn't. Instead of one human species spreading across the globe, there are two. At first, they remain separate. Homo sapiens continue building early settlements and farming communities, while Neanderthals stick to their hunter-gatherer ways. They prefer smaller groups, tight-knit clans, while Homo sapiens begin creating villages, then cities, then civilizations. Over time, these two species begin to interact more. Trade begins. Rivalries form. Alliances are made. Conflicts arise. Imagine Mesopotamia, Egypt, Rome, but with Neanderthals living alongside Homo sapiens. Maybe they are welcomed as fierce warriors, their immense strength making them valuable in battle. Maybe they are feared, seen as competitors for land and resources. Would history unfold the same way? Or would everything we know about civilization be different? Would Neanderthals build their own civilizations? Neanderthals were not mindless brutes. They buried their dead, they used tools, they created art. But they thought differently than Homo sapiens. Their brains were slightly larger but structured differently, suggesting that they relied on memory and instinct more than complex abstract thinking. Would this mean that their civilizations would develop differently? Maybe Neanderthals would never build sprawling cities, preferring smaller, highly cooperative tribes instead. Instead of massive empires, they might create independent regions loosely connected by trade and alliances. Their architecture might be simpler, more practical, designed for warmth and durability rather than grandeur. Their language might rely more on gestures and vocal tones, less on abstract writing and symbols. Their society might be more communal, less hierarchical, based on cooperation rather than large-scale leadership. But what happens when Homo sapiens begin to expand, build cities, conquer lands? Would Neanderthals resist assimilation, or would they be absorbed into human civilizations? Would they form their own kingdoms, fighting to preserve their way of life? History has shown that when two cultures meet, there are only a few possible outcomes: cooperation, assimilation, or conflict. Would humans and Neanderthals be equal? Fast forward to the Middle Ages. Kingdoms rise, empires stretch across continents, wars are fought for land and power. But this time it's not just different nations clashing, it's different species. Would Neanderthals be treated as equals? Or would Homo sapiens see them as a lesser species? We know how humans have treated each other based on race, religion, and culture. What happens when the difference is biological? Would Neanderthals be allowed to rule? Or would kings and emperors always be Homo sapiens? Would they have the same rights? Or would laws be written to keep them in a lower class? Would Homo sapiens try to civilize them? Teach them language, writing, and philosophy, assuming them to be primitive? Or would Neanderthals prove just as intelligent, just as capable, and demand a place in society on equal footing? Maybe in some parts of the world they are respected, even revered. In others they are enslaved, forced into labor, their natural strength exploited for human progress? Would we have learned to coexist peacefully, or would the history of slavery, discrimination, and segregation extend beyond race to species? The modern world with Neanderthals. Now imagine today. The year is 2024. Neanderthals are still here. What does the world look like? Would Neanderthals be your coworkers, your neighbors, your classmates? Would they be athletes, politicians, business owners? Or would they live in separate communities, preserving their way of life, much like indigenous tribes today? Would they embrace technology or resist it? Imagine a Neanderthal scientist making breakthroughs in genetics. A Neanderthal actor starring in blockbuster movies. A Neanderthal world leader addressing the United Nations. But also imagine the struggles they would face. Would they be given human rights? Would they have faced their own civil rights movement fighting for equality? Would they have their own schools, their own cultures, their own unique place in history? Or, as Homo sapiens advanced in science and war, would Neanderthals have slowly been pushed to extinction anyway, just later in history? The final question: would humanity still be the same? If Neanderthals had survived, we would live in a world where history itself had played out in completely different ways. Wars, alliances, inventions, cultures. Everything would have been shaped by the presence of another intelligent species. Would we have embraced them as brothers? Feared them as rivals? Used them for labor and war? Or would they have been the ones to dominate us? Maybe we'll never know. But if there's one thing history has taught us, it's that humans have never been good at sharing power. Fire, what do you think? Would Neanderthals and Homo sapiens have lived in peace, or would history have taken a darker turn? Let us know in the comments. Bell like and subscribe for more alternate history scenarios.